Imagine reaching into your pocket and pulling out a simple US quarter, only to discover it's worth more than your entire paycheck. These aren't ordinary coins. These are the quarters collectors fight over, the ones that disappear from the market the second they're found. Today, I'm revealing the rare quarters hiding in plain sight, the ones that turn everyday people into jackpot winners. If you've ever held a quarter in your hand, this might be the moment your luck finally hits. What if I told you that hiding inside your spare change could be a quarter worth thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars? These rare US quarters don't look special at first glance, but once collectors spot them, the bidding wars get insane. Today, I'm breaking down the quarters everyone overlooks, the mint errors, the scarce dates, the coins so valuable they can change your entire week, your month, even your bank account. In the year 2000, the United States Mint continued its remarkable 50-state quarters program by releasing the Maryland State Quarter, a coin that not only celebrated the history of the old line state, but also embodied the pride, resilience, and story of America itself. The Maryland quarter is more than just a piece of metal. It is a symbol of history, patriotism, and heritage, struck in both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. This coin marked the 7th issue in the 50-state quarters series, which had begun in 1999 to commemorate the individual stories and symbols of each American state. The Maryland quarter immediately drew attention for its elegant and meaningful design on its reverse. The coin displays the State House dome of the Maryland State Capitol building in Annapolis, a site of immense historical importance. The Maryland State House is the oldest state capitol still in continuous legislative use, dating back to 1772, and it played a central role during the early years of American independence. It was in this very building that the Continental Congress met from 1783 to 1784, making it the first peacetime capital of the United States. And it was here that General George Washington resigned his commission as Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army on December 23, 1783, an event that symbolized the birth of American democracy and civilian control of the military. The design of the Maryland quarter captures this monumental history. The dome shown prominently on the coin is one of the most recognizable architectural landmarks in the nation, topped with a weather vane in the shape of a ship to honor Maryland's maritime heritage. The dome itself was built entirely of wood using no nails. A feat of craftsmanship that remains impressive to this day. Surrounding the State House on the coin are clusters of white oak leaves and acorns representing Maryland's official state tree. The white oak, and specifically the famous Y oak, which stood for more than 460 years until it fell in 2002. The inclusion of the white oak on the coin symbolizes strength, endurance, and longevity, 3 traits deeply associated with Maryland and its people above the design. The word Maryland stands boldly, with the inscription "The Old Line State" beneath it, a nickname earned during the Revolutionary War, in tribute to the Maryland Line, the brave soldiers who fought with exceptional valor in key battles such as Camden and Cowpens under the command of General William Smallwood. These soldiers were so disciplined and courageous that George Washington himself is said to have bestowed upon Maryland the proud title of the Old Line State. The obverse of the coin features the familiar portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan, first used on the Washington Quarter in 1932 and later modified for the State Quarters series by William Cousins. This pairing of the national symbol of leadership with the deeply local imagery of the State House gives the Maryland Quarter a perfect balance between state pride and national unity. As for its minting, the Maryland Quarter was produced in massive numbers with over 1.2 billion coins struck between the Philadelphia and Denver mints. The Philadelphia mint-marked coins bear the P mint mark, while those from Denver show AD mark proof versions of the coin were also produced at the San Francisco Mint, featuring both clad and 90% silver compositions. Collectors immediately sought these proof coins for their mirror-like finishes and fine detail. The Maryland Quarter holds a special place in the hearts of collectors, not only for its design, but for the deep historical resonance. It carries the State House dome, stands as a living witness to the founding of the Republic, the signing of critical documents, and the transition of power from military to civilian leadership, a defining moment in world history. When George Washington stepped down, he set an example that would influence democratic societies across the globe. The artistic design was chosen through a statewide competition organized by the Maryland Quarter Design Advisory Committee, which reviewed multiple concepts before selecting the final version by artist William Crouchowich. His artwork captured not just the architecture, but the soul of Maryland from the colonial past to its proud present. The Maryland Quarter is also rich in symbolism. The use of the white oak wreath was a deliberate choice to emphasize resilience and deep roots, while the dome represented progress and governance together. They tell the story of a state that stood firm during the American Revolution, contributed key figures to the founding era, and continued to be a center of leadership and education with its proximity to the nation's capital. Maryland played a pivotal role in the growth of the early United States. The coin also reflects the innovation of the 50-state quarters program itself, launched by the United States Mint under the Coinage Act of 1997. The program transformed the way Americans viewed pocket change. Before this initiative, few people gave thought to the design of quarters, but by releasing 5 new designs each year representing different states, the program sparked massive interest in numismatics across the nation. It inspired millions of Americans, young and old, to begin collecting coins from every state, and the Maryland Quarter became one of the highlights of the series due to its refined simplicity and historical weight. The release date of the Maryland Quarter was March 13, 2000, and almost instantly it circulated widely across the United States, bringing a piece of Maryland's legacy into everyday life. Many who lived through the early 2000s remember the excitement of checking their change, hoping to find this beautifully designed coin that connected them with America's past beyond. Its design and symbolism, the Maryland Quarter, also represents the craftsmanship of the U.S. Each die was meticulously engraved to capture the fine details of the wooden dome and the delicate curves of the oak leaves. The quality control at the Philadelphia and Denver mints ensured that the imagery remained sharp even after billions of strikes. Some minting errors have also made certain Maryland quarters particularly valuable among collectors. These include off-center strikes, die cracks, and double die errors. Though rare, such pieces can fetch high prices depending on their condition and rarity. Another layer of meaning lies in the way the Maryland Quarter mirrors the state's geographic and cultural diversity, from the coastal beauty of the Chesapeake Bay to the historic streets of Baltimore and Annapolis, Maryland is a state that has always stood at the crossroads of American identity. It was one of the original 13 colonies founded by Lord Baltimore in 1632 as a haven for English Catholics seeking religious freedom. And over the centuries, it became a symbol of tolerance, industry, and progress. Its people contributed to every major era of American development. From the Revolution to the Civil War to the space age, the Maryland Quarter thus acts as a microcosm of the American story. It bridges the colonial past with the modern nation, a reminder that democracy, leadership, and endurance are not just words, but legacies carved into history. When collectors hold this coin, they are not merely holding metal. They are touching a timeline that stretches back to George Washington's quiet act of humility in the Maryland State House and forward to the enduring promise of liberty. The coin's motto, E pluribus unum, out of many one, and its inscriptions, United States of America, liberty, and $quarter further emphasize the unity and shared purpose that bind the states together. The Maryland Quarter remains a favorite among both casual collectors and serious numismatists, not just for its design, but for its educational and emotional impact. Schools across the country use the State Quarters program to teach children about geography, history, and civic pride. The Maryland Quarter was often highlighted in these lessons because of its direct connection to one of the most honorable acts in American history, Washington's resignation in Annapolis. Even today, more than 2 decades after its release, the Maryland Quarter continues to attract attention in coin shows and auctions. High-grade examples certified by NGC or PCGs can command impressive prices, especially the silver proofs in pristine condition. This enduring fascination proves that the coin has transcended its face value, becoming a true piece of American heritage, a collector's item that tells a story of honor, governance, and unity through art and metal. The Maryland Quarter stands as a timeless reminder that history is not just written in books, it is minted in coins and carried in the pockets of generations, a bridge between the ideals of the founding fathers and the ongoing journey of the American people through the hands that held it. The Maryland Quarter has spread the story of courage and democracy across the nation, reminding everyone that every coin has a voice and every state has a legacy worthy of remembrance. In the realm of American coinage, where art history and national pride intertwine, the 2016 Fort Moultrie quarter stands as a shining tribute to one of the most remarkable stories of resilience and defense in the nation's early years. This coin is not just a small piece of metal, it is a gateway to the history of courage, sacrifice, and patriotism that defined the American Revolutionary era. The Fort Moultrie quarter is part of the iconic America, the Beautiful Quarters program, which was launched by the United States Mint in 2010 to honor the most treasured national parks and historic sites across the 50 states, the District of Columbia, and the 5 U.S. territories. The 2016 Fort Moultrie quarter specifically represents South Carolina and captures the spirit of the Palmetto State through its deep connection to one of the earliest military victories in the struggle for American independence. The design and production of this quarter began years before its official release. The U.S. Mint's team of artists, engravers, and historians spent countless hours researching the history of Fort Moultrie, located on Sullivan's Island near Charleston, South Carolina. The fort played a crucial role in defending the American colonies against British naval attacks during the Revolutionary War. The year was 1776, and the American colonies were locked in a desperate struggle for freedom from British rule. At that time, Fort Moultrie, known as Fort Sullivan, was constructed out of palmetto logs, sand, and earth. The fort was still incomplete when British forces led by Admiral Sir Peter Parker and General Henry Clinton launched an attack on Charleston on June 28, 1776. The defenders of the fort, under the command of Colonel William Moultrie, stood firm even though they were vastly outnumbered and outgunned. The palmetto logs of the fort's walls absorbed and deflected the enemy's cannon fire, allowing the American defenders to hold their ground and ultimately repel the British assault. It was a defining moment in the war for independence and a major morale boost for the Patriots. The victory at Fort Moultrie ensured that South Carolina remained free from British control for years, and it also gave the fledgling American forces proof that courage, determination, and ingenuity could stand against one of the most powerful militaries in the world. The palmetto tree soon became a symbol of South Carolina's strength and resilience, and it continues to appear on the state flag to this day. When the United States Mint chose Fort Moultrie as the subject for the 2016 South Carolina quarter, it was a tribute not only to the bravery of Colonel Moultrie and his men, but also to the enduring legacy of American independence. The reverse side of the coin, designed by Richard Scott and sculpted by Joseph Mena, captures this history beautifully. The artwork depicts Sergeant William Jasper, one of the heroes of the battle, as he bravely runs across the battlefield to rescue and reattach the fort's flag after it had been shot down by British fire. His act of valor became legendary and symbolizes the unyielding spirit of those who fought for liberty in the face of overwhelming odds. Jasper's bravery inspired generations of Americans, and his image immortalized on the Fort Moultrie quarter reminds us of the personal sacrifices that built the foundation of the United States. The design also includes the inscriptions, Fort Moultrie, South Carolina, 2016, and a pluribus unum, all surrounding the striking central image that captures movement, heroism, and defiance. The obverse of the coin features the traditional portrait of George Washington, originally created by sculptor John Flanagan in 1932, and modified slightly over the years. This consistent obverse design ties the entire quarters series together, linking every coin to the nation's first president and the ideals he helped establish when the Fort Moultrie quarter was released on November 14th of 2016. It became the 5th and final release of that year, and the 35th coin overall in the America. The beautiful series, the launch ceremony was held near the historic site in South Carolina, with representatives from the United States, Mint, the National Park Service, and the local community all gathered to celebrate the coin's release. Collectors, historians, and coin enthusiasts from across the country praised the Fort Moultrie design for its historical accuracy and artistic power. The coin was struck in multiple versions, including the standard circulating quarter, the collector's proof strike, and the uncirculated mint set edition. It was also produced in a larger 5-ounce silver version, known as the America, the beautiful silver bullion coin, which provided an even more detailed and breathtaking view of the design. Every detail of the Fort Moultrie quarter tells a story, from the palmetto logs that symbolize strength under fire to the fluttering flag that represents freedom and endurance. The craftsmanship of the mint ensured that these historical and emotional elements were preserved with precision. The Fort Moultrie coin serves as more than a commemoration of a battle. It is a timeless reminder of how America's independence was won, not just through grand strategies or declarations, but through individual acts of bravery and unity. The fort itself would continue to play an important role in American history long after the Revolution. It was rebuilt and expanded over the years, becoming a key coastal defense point during the Civil War, and even serving as a military installation. Well into the 20th century, every era added a new layer of meaning to Fort Moultrie's story, transforming it from a single battle site into a symbol of America's enduring vigilance and resilience. The America the Beautiful Quarters program aimed to educate the public about these national treasures and to bring history into everyday life. By circulating these coins, the United States Mint succeeded in connecting millions of Americans with the landscapes, monuments, and stories that define the nation. The Fort Moultrie Quarter is a perfect example of that mission in action, reminding everyone who holds it of the courage of those early patriots and the birth of American freedom. Numismatists regard this coin as both a collector's gem and a teaching tool. It reflects how art and metal can preserve the very essence of history. When examined closely, the intricate details of the design speak volumes about the nation's journey from colonies to country. For example, the way the flag waves in the background represents the persistence of liberty through centuries of struggle and progress, while the steadfast stance of Sergeant Jasper captures the eternal watchfulness of the American spirit. From a minting perspective, the 2016 Fort Moultrie Quarter also showcases the advances in coin production technology at the United States Mint. The use of digital sculpting and laser engraving allowed the artists to achieve an extraordinary level of depth and realism, making the Fort Moultrie coin one of the most visually dynamic designs in the entire series. Collectors often discuss the quarter's striking contrast between matte and polished surfaces in the proof versions, which highlight Jasper's figure against the textured background of the fort, giving the impression of movement and determination beyond its artistic and historical value. The Fort Moultrie coin has become a symbol of South Carolina's contribution to the birth of the nation and of America's collective heritage. It tells a story that resonates with anyone who values courage, loyalty, and the fight for freedom, from the Battle of 1776 to the minting presses of 2016. This coin connects centuries of American history in a single piece of metal, and when we look at it closely, we are reminded that every coin in our pocket carries a story. This one happens to carry the story of how a handful of patriots behind walls of palmetto logs stood firm against an empire, and in doing so helped to shape the destiny of a nation. That spirit lives on in the 2016 Fort Moultrie Quarter, a small, shining testament to the courage that built America. Imagine holding a coin that doesn't just represent 25 cents, but a living symbol of America's 200th birthday. A small round piece of metal that captured the pride, passion, and patriotic spirit of a nation celebrating 2 centuries of independence. This is the story of the 1976 Bicentennial Quarter, a coin that became far more than change in your pocket. It became a tribute to history, a token of freedom, and a collectible that continues to fascinate generations of Americans and coin collectors around the world today. We dive deep into the incredible story of how this iconic quarter was created, what makes it unique, and why it remains one of the most talked about coins in United States history, from its design process to its mintage and distribution, from the symbolism engraved in its artwork to the hidden details that make certain versions worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. This coin is a masterpiece of American numismatic history. The year was 1976, and the United States was celebrating 200 years since the signing of the Declaration of Independence. The nation was alive with pride, parades and commemorations were being held everywhere, and the U.S. Mint wanted to honor this grand moment with something that would last forever. Something every American could hold in their hands. The idea was born to create special circulating coins for the bicentennial of the United States. And not just any coins, but redesigned versions of the quarter. $50 and dollar coins, each carrying symbols that would remind citizens of their freedom, their struggles, and their triumphs. The bicentennial quarter was the most widely used among them since it represented the everyday currency of the nation. The design competition was announced in 1973 when the Treasury Department invited artists and sculptors from across the country to submit designs for the commemorative coin. The goal was to find artwork that perfectly captured the spirit of the American Revolution and the Progress of the United States. After reviewing hundreds of entries, the judges selected Jack L.R.'s design for the quarter. His concept showed a colonial drummer facing left, representing the citizen soldiers who fought for independence. Behind the drummer are 13 stars symbolizing the original colonies, and a torch of victory encircled by rays of light. The obverse side retained the familiar portrait of George Washington, originally sculpted by John Flanagan. But with one key change, the date was replaced by a dual inscription reading 1776-1976, marking the nation's bicentennial year. This dual date became a hallmark of the bicentennial coins, and it instantly set them apart from any other quarter. Ever minted, millions of Americans began saving them as keepsakes from children to grandparents. Everyone wanted a piece of history. The U.S. Mint produced these quarters at 3 facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each mint struck millions of coins, but their compositions and finishes varied. Philadelphia and Denver struck circulation strikes in copper-nickel-clad composition, while San Francisco struck both proof coins and 40% silver collector editions. The silver versions were part of special collector sets that were sold directly to the public in 1975 and 1976. One interesting fact is that no quarters were dated 1975 because all quarters struck in both 1975 and 1976 bore the 1776 to 1976 dual date. This makes it a unique period in U.S. coinage history during which the standard date format was completely suspended in honor of the nation's 200th anniversary. The mintage numbers were enormous, as demand was high. Over 860 million quarters were struck at the Philadelphia Mint and more than 860 million at the Denver Mint, while the San Francisco Mint produced millions more in proof and silver sets. But even within such a massive production, there are variations and rarities that make certain bicentennial quarters more valuable than others. For example, collectors prize the 1976 silver-proof quarter, which has a mirror-like finish and sharp details because it was struck multiple times on 40% silver planchets. Then there are the Type 1 and Type 2 varieties of the San Francisco issues. The Type 1 has bold, thick lettering, while the Type 2 features refined, thinner lettering and cleaner design details. The Type 2 versions are generally more desirable among collectors, especially in high grades. The condition of the coin plays a critical role in its value. Coins that were well preserved with no wear, often graded MS65 or higher by professional grading services, can fetch impressive prices, especially if they are silver strikes or proofs. Another fascinating aspect of the bicentennial quarter is how it became a cultural symbol of the 1970s. It circulated during a period of renewed national pride as America looked back on 200 years of independence while also facing new challenges such as the aftermath of the Vietnam War and the Watergate scandal. This coin was a unifying emblem, a daily reminder of resilience and the democratic spirit that defined the United States from its birth people across the country cherished these coins not only for their monetary value, but for what they represented in their hearts and history books. The production process itself was monumental. The mint began production in 1975 so that the coins could be widely available. By the start of the bicentennial year, each die was carefully prepared to ensure the unique drummer boy design maintained sharpness across millions of strikes. It required extensive testing to balance die life, metal flow, and relief depth, while ensuring mass production quality. The mints used new techniques in die polishing and hubbing to maintain consistency. The result was one of the most successful commemorative coin programs in U.S. history. Even decades later in the 21st century, the 1976 bicentennial quarter remains a favorite among coin collectors worldwide. It stands out not only for its design, but also for its meaning and emotional connection to American heritage. Some people still find them in circulation, but pristine. Examples are usually stored away in private collections or passed down through generations. The silver proofs, especially those that remain sealed in their original government packaging, continue to appreciate in value depending on market demand. Silver content and rarity. Another reason for the ongoing fascination is the artistry behind Jack R's design. He managed to combine simplicity with power. The drummer boy's determined face, the detailed uniform, and the symbolic torch all merge to convey courage, unity, and hope. This coin was never about the past alone. It was a reflection of America's endurance and optimism as it entered its third century. R himself once said that his design aimed to remind people that independence was achieved through ordinary citizens who took extraordinary action. That message resonates deeply even today. Whenever you hold a bicentennial quarter, you hold a tribute to those who made freedom possible as coin collecting evolved with technology. Grading and digital trading platforms, the 1976 quarter found new life in the online numismatic community. Collectors began sharing discoveries of double-die errors off center strikes and planche variations that made certain coins especially valuable. Some error coins have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on rarity and condition. Examples include quarters struck on nickel planches, coins with missing clad layers or double-struck details. These unique minting anomalies add excitement to the pursuit of finding rare varieties hidden among the millions of bicentennial coins still in existence. The bicentennial quarter's enduring popularity also stems from its educational and nostalgic appeal for new collectors. It serves as an entry point into the fascinating world of American coinage, and for older generations it represents a tangible memory of the nation's 200th birthday celebration, a time of parades, fireworks, and unity. This blend of history, art, and emotion is what makes the 1976 quarter timeless. It's not just a collectible, it's a story of national pride and craftsmanship, minted into metal from the initial design competition to the final distribution. Every stage of this coin's creation was infused with meaning and national pride. The bicentennial coinage program was a monumental success, inspiring future commemorative issues such as the state quarters program decades later. But none quite captured the same universal appeal. As the Drummer Boy quarter did in 1976, its resonance with the American public remains unmatched. So when you look at the 1976 bicentennial quarter, remember that it's more than just a coin. It's a celebration of a nation's journey from revolution to modern democracy, a lasting symbol of freedom, creativity, and unity. A coin that turned 200 years of history into something that fits in the palm of your hand and continues to inspire curiosity, wonder, and pride nearly 50 years later. The 1976 bicentennial quarter is not just a collector's treasure, it's America's heartbeat cast in copper, nickel, and silver, a timeless reminder that even in the smallest things like a quarter, the greatest stories of a nation can live forever. In the vast story of American coinage, there are few pieces that carry both beauty and meaning as powerfully as the 2017 Ozark National Scenic Riverways quarter, a shining tribute not only to the state of Missouri, but to the enduring relationship between America's people and its natural wonders. This coin is more than metal. It is a monument cast in silver and copper, a piece of art that preserves the heartbeat of a nation's wild landscapes and a testament to the United States Mint's craftsmanship that connects collectors, historians, and dreamers alike. The Ozark Riverways quarter belongs to the America. The Beautiful Quarters program, a series that began in 2010 and ran through 2021, with each design celebrating one of the nation's most treasured sites of natural and historical importance. The Ozark National Scenic Riverways coin, released on June 5, 2017, became the 38th coin in that monumental series, representing the proud state of Missouri through a scene that captures both serenity and strength. Carved into its surface is the image of Alley Mill, a historic grist mill that sits beside the shimmering waters of Alley Spring, surrounded by dense trees and the quiet embrace of the Ozarks. It is a place that seems untouched by time, a scene where the modern world fades away and America's past whispers in every ripple of the water and every creak of the wooden mill. The design of the Ozark quarter was created by artist Renata Gordon and sculpted by Philip H. Morg. The moment you gaze upon the coin, you see an extraordinary attention to detail: the mill standing firmly beside the flowing stream, its reflection glimmering in the water, the trees arching softly above it, and the calm yet powerful current representing the life force that once sustained the people who called these lands home. The design was not just chosen for its aesthetic beauty, but for its historical and cultural depth. Because the Ozark National Scenic Riverways is far more than a park, it is a living museum of American frontier heritage, established in 1964 as the first national park area to protect a river system. The Ozark National Scenic Riverways safeguards the Current and Jacks Fork rivers, two of the cleanest and most beautiful waterways in the United States, stretching across 80,000 acres of rugged terrain, deep valleys, karst landscapes, and underground springs. This park tells the story of both nature's resilience and the pioneering spirit of Missouri's early settlers. The alley mill depicted on the quarter dates back to 1894. It was once a center of community life, a place where farmers brought their grain to be ground into flour, powered by the rushing waters of Alley Spring. The mill used turbine technology that was advanced for its time. And to this day, the site stands as a symbol of the self-reliance and innovation that defined rural America. The United States Mint chose this site because it embodied the balance between man and nature, a reminder that progress can exist alongside preservation. The 2017 Ozark Riverways Quarter was struck at 3 mint facilities, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, each producing coins with their respective mint marks. PD and S collectors were thrilled by the release, not only because of the design, but also because of the opportunity to explore the rich variations in minting quality errors and finishes that make each coin unique. There were business strike versions made for circulation, as well as uncirculated and proof editions sold to collectors. The San Francisco proof coin particularly stands out with its mirror-like surface and frosted design, bringing the alley mill to life with stunning contrast. Now to understand the full value of the Ozark Riverways. Quarter 1 must look beyond its face value of 25 cents and see it through the lens of artistry, craftsmanship, and national pride. This coin carries the legacy of the America the Beautiful series, which followed the wildly successful State Quarters program of 1999 to 2008. Each of these coins served as both educational artifacts and miniature canvases, telling the story of a nation's landscapes, wildlife, and culture. The Ozark coin in particular strikes a chord because it represents the spirit of exploration and the quiet beauty of America's interior heartlands. Missouri's Ozarks are not just scenic, they are historic. The region was once home to Native American tribes, including the Osage and Delaware, who lived along its riverbanks and depended on its clean waters for sustenance. When European settlers arrived, they built mills like Alley to harness the river's power, turning raw nature into livelihood without destroying its essence over time. The alley mill became not just a workplace, but a gathering point for farmers, travelers, and families, its rhythmic churning a sound that echoed through the valley, marking the passage of seasons and the pulse of community life. By immortalizing this mill on the quarter, the United States Mint gave new life to a forgotten chapter of American history. The production process for this coin was itself a feat of precision before the final design was approved. Dozens of concepts were reviewed and refined by the Citizens Coinage Advisory Committee and the Commission of Fine Arts, both bodies tasked with ensuring that the design honored the spirit of the site while maintaining aesthetic harmony with the rest of the series. Once the design was chosen, the dies were engraved with microscopic detail, ensuring that even the tiniest branch of the trees and the faint lines of the mill's structure would appear crisply on the coin. When struck at high pressure, each coin was inspected for quality before release, with collectors eagerly awaiting launch ceremonies held near the park itself, attended by park officials, mint representatives, and local historians during the event. Free quarters were distributed to school children, a symbolic act connecting new generations to America's natural heritage. Over the years, the Ozark Riverways Quarter has become a favorite among collectors, not only because of its visual beauty, but because of the deeper message it carries, a reminder that America's treasures are not only its monuments and cities, but also its rivers, forests, and the quiet mills that once fed its people. Today, the alley mill still stands, maintained by the National Park Service and visited by thousands who come to see the place they once held in their hands through the small shining lens of a quarter. The sound of flowing water, the rustling of leaves, and the turning of wooden gears can almost be heard when one looks closely at the coin's intricate design. Its story becomes a bridge across time, linking 19th century innovation with 21st century appreciation in the broader scope of coin history. The 2017 Ozark Quarter also marks a significant era in American numismatics, a time when coins became more than currency. They became storytellers, capturing pieces of the nation's identity in circulating art, and every coin struck is a historical record in miniature, carrying on its surface not only the portrait of George Washington on the obverse, but the imprint of American memory on the reverse. As for its market value, while most circulated coins remain at face value, higher-grade uncirculated examples can command premiums among collectors, and proof sets containing the Ozark Quarter are prized for their perfect finish and limited mintage. The combination of aesthetic appeal and historical weight ensures that this coin will continue to be a cherished piece of the America, the beautiful legacy for generations to come. What makes the Ozark Riverway's quarter truly special is not simply what it shows, but what it represents. It captures a slice of American life, where simplicity meets strength, where the power of a river once turned a wheel that fed families, and where the beauty of nature continues to inspire awe long after the last grain was ground. This is not just a coin, it is a story, a history, a tribute to the places and people that built the nation, and to those who still find peace and pride in its natural wonders. The Ozark National Scenic Riverways Quarter reminds us that even the smallest piece of metal can carry the weight of a nation's heart, a timeless symbol of America's enduring bond with its land and its legacy.